Who are you supposed to be?
I'm Ahsoka? Good luck.
Execute Order 63.
You really think it's a good idea to bring a Padawan learner into all this?
It's often said Star Wars is at its best when the things it's trying to say are said in the least amount of words.
I love you.
I know.
Tell me, is it the chosen one?
He is.
You didn't kill Anakin Skywalker. I did.
Dave Filoni's ability to deliver great moments in almost silence is largely down to three important factors: masterful storytelling,
Rex, it's Anakin.
nuanced performances,
Find him. Find him.
and perfect characterization. During the final moments of the Clone Wars animated series, these three factors are at play, to their peak, making the epilogue one of the greatest moments in the history of Star Wars. Like a silent, slow dance with many subliminal plates all spinning at once, the final moments of the animated Clone Wars series tells the story of Ahsoka's loss, Anakin's transition into Vader, and the end of the Clone Wars era. The show manages to portray this in one single shot, without a single word spoken. The question posed to us, the viewer, in the final moments in the last shot is, who loses? From the broadest possible point of view, the entire galaxy lost, with only a select few tasting victory. But even some of those who tasted victory still suffered the sour aftertaste of defeat. After 133 episodes of the Clone Wars, the satisfying yet tragic finale, Victory and Death, closes a monumental chapter of the Star Wars story. The greatness of the Clone Wars finale should never be underestimated. The care and artistry that went into the series is apparent throughout, but none more so than the final moments of the final episode. Every shot tells a much larger story. Subliminal messages are woven carefully into each action. Tragedy, victory, and death are prevalent throughout. Starting off with some transparency, for many years I deeply believed the Clone Wars series was a fun and adventurous series made for the younger generation, being acquainted with the Star Wars franchise. How wrong I was. Turns out I gained everything I'd ever wished for from a Star Wars story. Perhaps I'm not alone in this. Perhaps there are many out there in the Star Wars community who still haven't seen the series. Be sure to let me know in the comments. Star Wars content made after the original trilogy and prequels is at its greatest when the journey towards an outcome we know
Execute Order 66.
elevates the details within the era, delivers stories untold, deepens character arcs, and provides unexpected emotion. This is exactly what the Clone Wars achieves, and by the time we reach the finale, what unfolds is nothing short of perfection. Palpatine's long-term plan to fool the galaxy, break down its foundations, and end the era of the Jedi ultimately brings us to Ahsoka Tano and Anakin Skywalker. Goodbye, old friend. Diving into the first few seconds of the epilogue sets some unknown years into the Imperial era. Stormtroopers, snowtroopers, and probe droids can be seen searching the wreckage of a crashed spaceship on a snow-covered planet. Mechanical breathing is heard in the distance. The imposing audible and visual presence of Vader heads towards the crash site. Using the Force, Vader senses something below his feet. He slowly kneels down and picks up Ahsoka's lightsabers. The very lightsabers Anakin constructed for his former Padawan and dear friend. Anakin discovering Ahsoka's lightsaber is a major emotional moment for him. He gifted these lightsabers to Ahsoka right before the Siege of Mandalore, as a kind of symbol or blind hope of how the Jedi Order might accept her back, as well as his own fondness for her. Now, in this moment, Anakin is no longer a Jedi either, hardly even the same person when compared to the last time they met. Exactly what Vader is thinking in this moment is up for debate, but his relationship with Ahsoka and their time together are likely festering in his mind. Is Vader struggling with his feelings towards his former friend? He could even believe that discovering Ahsoka's lightsaber means that she never survived Order 66. During Tales of the Jedi, we caught a glimpse of Anakin teaching Ahsoka how to survive such an event, and now discovering that she may be dead only brings around more guilt for Anakin to live with. Not only has he lost everything, Ahsoka's death is in his hands too. He failed her as her mentor. I believe in this moment Vader is mourning more than he can bear to handle. Anakin loved Ahsoka, and therefore Ahsoka is the final piece of the puzzle that breaks Anakin's heart. The last remnant of his former life. Vader likely has a part of his memory where thoughts of Padme, Kenobi, and now Ahsoka reside. The key to this cage was likely destroyed. It's a cage within his mind, buried deep, that only years later resurfaces and broken open by his son, Luke Skywalker.
I'll not leave you here. I've got to save you.
You already have.
Vader looks up as a distant call sounds from overhead. His eyes, not yet yellow Sith eyes, are just visible under the helmet's red-tinted lenses. The bird circling over Vader in the final scene is a creature who is said to watch over Ahsoka throughout her life. Her name is Mora, a convor who connects back to the Clone Wars Mortis arc. She's an old friend, Ahsoka later says of Mora. In Rebels, I owe her my life. The bird circling above Anakin likely represents his past, and that it still haunts him, circling through his mind like glass shards, reminding him of everything he lost and the mental pain he suffers because of his choices. Vader turns his attention back to the lightsaber. Turning and walking away, Vader's intimidating yet lonely figure reflects in the visor of a clone trooper helmet, half buried in the snow, and then Anakin fades away entirely. As I touched upon at the start, not a word is spoken in this entire scene, and yet this final shot of the entire series manages to signal and summarise the end of the Clone Wars era, Ahsoka's loss, and the transition of Anakin to Vader. 133 episodes of greatness, tragedy, and loss, depicted in one single shot. From the writer's perspective, one of the key goals of the entire series was to tell a more in-depth and fleshed-out version of how Anakin could go from fearless commander of the Republic Army and Jedi Knight to a twisted and evil Sith Lord. Time and time again, the Clone Wars does an excellent job of showing Anakin's darker side. Anakin could never let his past die, and the events that unfold in the finale became one of the key paths that led Anakin to the dark side. And now we see how the fractured relationship between him, Ahsoka, and Kenobi only pushed him further towards that darkness. A tragic yet satisfying end. Tragedy and heartbreak are central themes at the heart of any great Star Wars story. The main tragedy of the prequels, of course, is the fall of Anakin Skywalker.
For my brother Anakin! I loved you!
Some have argued that Anakin's turn to the dark side during the prequel films felt a tad rushed. We don't get as much insight into the character that would truly lead us to believe that he would turn away from the light so easily. That was the beauty of the Clone Wars. It recognised the darkness in Anakin much more, show how he thrived in a commander role in the Clone Wars, cared about his troops,
The outpost is secure. Good job, Corporal.
and yet he was prone to moments of intense darkness. As for Ahsoka Tano, her arc across the series delivers one hell of an emotional punch. Her suffering is visible but very silent. Her journey from the beginnings of the series to here is one of the greatest arcs in the entire Star Wars story, and propelled Ahsoka into the hearts of fans. Whilst initially fans struggled with her character, Filoni took it upon himself to give fans a truly remarkable and memorable story arc, solidifying Ahsoka as one of the best and fleshed out characters in the galaxy. The final scene of the show is somehow greater than the sum of all its parts. It manages to beautifully intertwine the Clone Wars story into the larger Star Wars story arc. In a truly heartbreaking way, the final flame of Anakin fades away. The last remnants of the Republic are swept away, and the imposing shadow of the Empire is cast across the galaxy. After 133 episodes of adventure, tragedy, hope, and heartbreak, our two favourite Jedis are no longer Jedis. Actions in this scene truly speak louder than words. Thank you for watching the latest episode in my Revisited series. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments, not just on the epilogue, but your experience with the Clone Wars story too. If you are new to the channel, be sure to subscribe for all our Star Wars adventures. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit that like button to support the channel, and as always, may the Force be with you.